In 2014, 32-year-old Lisanne Carter set off on a hiking trip in the remote Kuwohi Mountains with her husband, Eric. She was adventurous, meticulous, and she never came back. Eric said she vanished without a trace. For 4 years, the forest stayed silent until rangers discovered her backpack deep inside a hidden underwater cave. Inside were chilling journal entries, a broken phone, and a message that changed everything. What really happened on that trail? Did Eric lead her there, knowing she'd never return? This is the story of one woman's disappearance and the secrets the mountain couldn't keep. She was the kind of person who smiled at the rain, the kind who kept a journal just to remember how the trees smelled in different seasons. In the spring of 2014, Lisanne Carter, a 32-year-old travel enthusiast, vanished without a trace. In the remote Kuwohi wilderness, a place known for its beauty and its secrets, she wasn't alone. She had gone hiking with her husband, Eric, on what was supposed to be a peaceful getaway in nature. The couple had been married for just under 3 years. On social media, they looked like the perfect match. Lisanne, free-spirited and always chasing the next adventure, and Eric, quiet but steady, the kind of man who could build a fire with one hand and filter water with the other. Their destination was a remote part of Kuwohi, a place Lisanne had always dreamed of visiting. Locals say she was fascinated by the ancient forests, the hidden spring-fed caves, and the legends whispered by old hikers about the Blue Eye, a deep, almost perfectly round water cave, rumored to be bottomless. Before the trip, Lisanne told her sister, "If I disappear, it'll probably be because I refuse to come home." But no one knew how haunting those words would become. The first 2 days of the hike went smoothly. Photos from Lisanne's camera show a smiling couple on rocky trails, resting near streams, laughing over instant noodles by a campfire. She wore a bright tie-dye headband and carried a yellow hiking bag, both of which would later become chilling symbols in the search for her. Then, on the 3rd day, everything changed. Eric returned from the trailhead alone, according to his report. To rangers, Lisanne had wandered off the path around midday. He claimed she wanted to photograph wildflowers near the ridge, while he stayed behind to boil water. When she didn't return after an hour, he began to worry. He shouted her name. He searched, then hiked all the way back down. Alone. To call for help. Search teams arrived within hours. Helicopters scanned the forest. Dogs were brought in. Even volunteer hikers joined in, but no trace of Lisanne could be found. Not a footprint, not a thread of clothing. It was as if the forest had swallowed her whole. Her family flew in immediately. Her sister, heartbroken and stunned, told reporters, "Lisanne would never just wander off. She's careful. She's smart. If she's out there, she wants to be found." But the search turned up nothing. Days turned to weeks. The media moved on. And Eric, strangely, did too. Within a few months, he moved back to Texas. By the following year, he had deleted most of his social media accounts. People noticed he no longer mentioned Lisanne publicly. He didn't attend memorial hikes organized in her honor. When asked why, he simply said, "It's too painful." But some weren't convinced. A retired ranger who had helped in the Oz initial search later said in an interview, there was something off about Eric. He wasn't panicked. He wasn't desperate. Most people in that situation, you can feel their grief. With him, you felt nothing. And still, the forest kept its silence. For 4 long years, no clues, no leads. Just a woman gone missing, and a husband who never seemed to grieve. Until one day, in 2018, something unexpected surfaced in the depths of a cave known only to seasoned hikers, a place few dare to go. They say the woods remember everything. The footsteps, the screams, even the lies. By the end of 2014, Lizanne Carter's disappearance had faded from the headlines. But in the quiet mountain town near Kuwohi, her name still echoed through whispers, rumors, and one lingering question: what really happened out there? Eric, her husband, the only person who had been with her that day, had already distanced himself. He gave one televised interview, barely a month after she went missing. In it, he sat stiffly, eyes low, voice flat. "Did everything I could. I searched. I waited. I just want her to come home." But many people noticed what wasn't said. No tears, no emotion. As if grief was something he had rehearsed but never felt. Friends close to Lizanne began to speak up, hesitant at. First out, one of them, a woman named Jenna, told a podcast host she loved him, but she wasn't blind. "Lizanne told me there were times Eric would change. Like a switch. He hated when she went on solo trips. He hated how much she shared with people. Sometimes he made her feel small." Another friend revealed a cryptic message Lizanne had sent just days before the trip. "If something happens to me in Kuwohi, don't believe it was the forest." That one line, chilling, strange, suddenly took on a darker meaning. But what truly reopened the floodgates were the inconsistencies. The full Ranger report was made public months later. Internet sleuths and amateur investigators began tearing through it. And the deeper they looked, the stranger it became. Eric claimed Lizanne wandered off around 12:30 p.m. But a hiker on the trail, heading down at 1:15 p.m., swore he saw both of them arguing near a small spring cave. A group of backpackers later said they heard a scream echoing from the cliffs that same afternoon. And one volunteer searcher claimed Eric's GPS tracker logs had been mysteriously wiped clean after the third day. No one could explain it, except, of course, the most disturbing possibility. He didn't lose her. He left her. Meanwhile, Lizanne's family continued to push for answers. Her sister organized memorial hikes through Kuwohi every spring. Her mother wrote letters to every major hiking association, pleading for anyone who may have seen something that day. They couldn't let go, because Lizanne wouldn't have just disappeared. Not her. She was methodical. Every hike was mapped out. Every trail recorded. She had backups of her backups, and she never went anywhere without writing about it in her journal. But that journal was gone. Just like her, until 2018. 4 years after she vanished, team of state park rangers was conducting routine water quality testing in Kuwohi, near a rarely visited part of the reserve known as Blue Eye Spring. The name came from the natural water cave beneath it, perfectly circular, impossibly deep, with a haunting navy blue hue. Most hikers never found it. Some said it didn't exist, but it did. And on that day, they found something inside it, lodged between two rocks. About 20 feet below the surface was a backpack, faded yellow, with the stitching torn from one side. Inside, a cracked phone waterlogged journal necklace Lizanne's sister immediately recognized, and one last item, a permit from the Kuwohi Ranger Station, with both their names signed on it, but it was the journal that broke the silence. Of the pages were ruined, but one survived. Written in shaky, smudged ink, the final entry read, "I don't feel safe. He watches me when I sleep. He won't stop talking about the cave. If something happens to me, please find this." The moment the report hit the news, the internet exploded. Reddit threads lit up. Podcasts launched new episodes overnight. People who had forgotten Lizanne's name were now obsessed with it. And for the first time in 4 years, the case was reopened. But what would happen next would leave everyone speechless, especially Eric, because if the cave held the bag, what else could be down there? Sometimes the dead don't stay buried, and sometimes the truth refuses to drown. It had been 4 long years since Lizanne Carter vanished into the heart of Kuwohi. 4 years of silence, theories, and one man, Eric, slowly slipping into a life untouched by her memory. Until a backpack rose from the dark. On a humid August morning in 2018, a group of park rangers was lowering a sensor into a rarely explored cave pool beneath Blue Eye Spring. Their job was simple: test the temperature and water clarity. But what their gear hit wasn't rock. It was fabric, wedged deep between 2 jagged stones. A diver was called in. What he pulled from that cold, black water would haunt him for weeks. The backpack, yellow, torn, heavy, almost perfectly preserved by the cold stillness of the water. Inside were fragments of a life lost. A journal, its outer pages water-damaged, but the core surprisingly legible. A shattered phone, its SIM card. Intact, a silver chain with a cracked turquoise stone. Lizanne's favorite necklace, confirmed by her sister. And finally, a torn camping permit, folded in half, with a faded signature, Lizanne Carter. Underneath it, unmistakable, Eric Carter. News of the discovery hit the town like thunder. The search was back on. Only this time, it wasn't about finding Lizanne alive. It was about finding out what really happened to her, and whether her husband had led her into the forest to disappear her. Forensics moved quickly. The journal was analyzed first. It was hand-dated, with the last entry matching the exact date Eric claimed Lizanne went missing. But the tone was nothing like a lost hiker. Eric is angry again. He keeps looking toward the cave. I don't understand why he wants to go down there. I don't want to. Something about it makes me feel sick. Another, earlier entry was even more chilling. If we don't make it back, someone please read this. Don't believe everything he says. Rangers brought in diving experts to explore the cave more thoroughly. A submerged, narrow tunnel, roughly 30 feet deep and barely wide enough for a single diver to squeeze through. At the bottom, they discovered scratches on the rock, fingernail marks, and a torn piece of clothing snagged on a submerged branch. Lab tests confirmed it. The fabric matched the jacket Lizanne had been wearing when she vanished. That was enough. Authorities officially reopened the case. And once again, all eyes turned to Eric. He was tracked down in Nevada, living under a new last name. He'd remarried. He had a new job, a new home, a new life. When questioned by investigators, he showed little emotion. I don't know how. That bag got there, he told them. We never even saw that cave. But they had more than just a bag now. Phone data recovered from Lizanne's SIM card showed a disturbing pattern. 27. Attempted calls to emergency services in the hours after her disappearance, all made from deep within Kuwohi. The last call, made at 2:14 a.m., ended abruptly. The final photo on the phone showed nothing but pitch darkness, except for one blurry shape, possibly a boot or a leg. Then came the bombshell. An anonymous tip was phoned into the local sheriff's office. A man never identified claimed he had seen Eric dragging something heavy down the trail toward Blue Eye Spring the same day Lizanne vanished. He never reported it, said he didn't want to get involved. But the guilt had eaten at him for years. He told her, "You're not going to leave me." Then she screamed. I didn't know what to do. Investigators presented the evidence to the district attorney, but with no body, no surveillance, no physical witnesses, Eric couldn't be charged. Not yet. But public opinion had already chosen a side. Eric, now the center of a digital manhunt, deleted his online profiles and issued a single statement through his lawyer. I loved my wife. I didn't hurt her. But no one believed him. Not after the journal. Not after the fingernail marks. Not after Lizanne wrote, "Don't believe him." And so the case stood, balanced between truth and speculation. justice and memory. While deep beneath the surface, the cave kept its silence. But one question remained. Was that cave the end of Lisanne's story, or just the beginning of Eric's unraveling? Sometimes justice doesn't come in the form of handcuffs. Sometimes it comes when the world finally sees the truth. For years, Eric Carter walked free. No trial, no charges, just silence and a shadow that followed him wherever he went. But in 2018, after Lisanne's backpack was discovered at the bottom of a water cave in Kuwohi, everything changed. At first, it was subtle. Local reporters returned to the story. Old search teams were contacted, and dormant Reddit threads lit up with fresh theories and fury. Then came the official word. The case was reopened. This time, investigators weren't asking if something happened to Lisanne. They were asking if Eric Carter made it happen. They started with what they had. A journal with Lisanne's final. Entries pointing to fear and emotional manipulation. Forensic reports showing her bag had been deliberately placed. Phone data revealing 27 attempted SOS calls after her last known moment. A torn jacket fragment recovered from inside the cave, matched to what she wore the day she disappeared. Then came the biggest break, a geotagged timestamp from her phone, placing her near the cave hours after Eric claimed she was already gone. His alibi collapsed. When brought in for formal questioning, Eric cracked. He first claimed she'd wandered off. Confronted with the timestamp, he stammered, "Maybe we were near the cave. I didn't remember that part." Shown the journal. Entries, he dismissed them, saying, "She was." Dramatic sometimes. But when asked why he never searched the cave, he had no answer. The media pounced. Headlines screamed for justice. Redditors and true crime channels amplified the evidence. And former friends of Eric came forward with disturbing anecdotes, controlling behavior, veiled threats, and one haunting quote, "If my wife disappears, no one will be surprised." What once sounded like a joke now echoed like a warning. In January 2019, a special panel reviewed the case and classified it as a likely homicide, despite the absence of a body. Still, Eric remained free, living in the narrow space between suspicion and legal proof. But freedom didn't mean peace. Over the next year, his life unraveled. His second wife left him. He lost his job after boycotts surged. He disappeared from social media, retreating into a quiet life where the past followed like a shadow. To many, he was already guilty. To Lisanne's family, he was already sentenced, not by a court, but by truth. Lisanne's story became more than a mystery. It became a movement. Every spring, hikers gather at Kuwohi's trailhead, wearing yellow, the color of her backpack, to honor her. Near Blue Eye Spring, volunteers placed a sign for Lisanne, who wanted to see the world, not disappear in it. But perhaps the most powerful moment came in late 2020, when one of the divers from the original recovery team returned to the cave. One final dive. There, caught in a crevice near the site where her bag had been found, was something small, fragile, a bone fragment, possibly human. DNA results are still pending. But if confirmed, it could mean Lisanne has finally been found. And that the final piece of the puzzle is near. Sometimes justice doesn't scream. It whispers. It lingers. It survives. Just like Lisanne's memory. And maybe ... just maybe, it's not over yet. The forest never spoke. But Lisanne did, in torn pages, missed calls, and a journal that outlived the lies.